I'm here with Bree Eldridge and Heather Holmes. Bree, you need to come up with a nickname.
All right, I'll think of something.
Okay, yeah, think of something. So, all right, so we're here to talk about, first of all, that we have a GOP convention coming up in Cumberland County, March 8th at the Freedom Christian Center from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. Any registered Republican is welcome, and you can register at the convention. You just wouldn't be able to vote if you registered as a Republican at the convention, but all are welcome, and we would like to see you there. We will be voting for essentially our new board of directors for the GOP Cumberland County. I'm making these videos in conjunction with these two ladies, because not just because they're smart, but also because they know what inside baseball looks like, and they know how much our current board of directors has dropped the ball and helped hold Cumberland County back from a solid red win, and they refuse to work with people that don't look, think, and act like them. So with that, I'll turn it over. So I want to talk about the day of election. So
Okay.
I worked for like 10 years for the Board of Election, where I was actually like a precinct chair, and like I'd be on the back of that table when you come in to vote.
Right.
But as a party person, as part of the GOP, you can sign up to volunteer to be what's called a precinct observer, a poll observer, right?
Poll observer,
So
yeah.
so Bree, tell me, how many precincts do we have in Cumberland County?
We have 77 precincts.
Okay.
That's on election day. So of course, early voting, there was only 8 locations.
Mhm.
That's a little easier to cover.
Right.
But on election day, you have 77 precincts. So if you're a precinct chair, it's up to you to organize that precinct and prepare. Your whole job as precinct chair, prepare for election day.
Mhm.
You know, whether that's going out in your neighborhood recruiting people. Like when I was precinct chair on election day, I had shifts already set up,
Mhm.
like 4-hour shifts. People would come in, have the material, talk
Well,
to
now, are you
voters.
talking about precinct observers or just precinct people to hand out literature?
Just precinct
outside?
workers on the outside. But
Okay.
yeah, so if you have observers on the inside, now that's up to the chair. The chair
Okay.
is the only one that can submit the list.
So chairwoman was supposed to recruit 77 people?
Well,
One for
I
each?
mean, you have 10 at large, which that list you turn in, so they can go anywhere, they can go in and out, they don't have to stay a certain amount of time. And then you can assign people to individual shifts.
Mhm.
Usually, and it's usually a 4-hour shift. You don't assign one person as a poll observer to a site all day on
Okay,
election
well,
day.
fair enough, but I mean, at minimum, there has to be 77 people.
Yes,
There has to be at least one shift for each one of the precincts. So,
which can be very daunting task.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, our chairwoman, as a candidate, was going around the polls that day, I didn't see any Republican poll observers. Why was that?
Well, when you turn in your list as chair, there's deadlines.
Why was that?
So, there's deadlines for turning in for early voting, and then there's a deadline for election day, which they've even made it easier. When I was chair, it had to be 5 days ahead of time.
Okay.
But they changed the rules, so now it's 24 hours ahead of time, 1 day ahead of time.
Okay.
So, the chair had to turn in the list the day before by noon. I mean, there has to be a deadline somewhere.
Well, did she have to mail it? Did she have to
Just
send it by
email.
smoke
Just
signal?
email it.
Just email it.
How did she screw up email?
Wasn't it a data file too that she screwed up?
Yeah, it wasn't the right file or something like that.
I'm playing uncharacteristically stupid right now, but let me just explain what happened. So,
Yeah, 'cause I really don't
our
know.
chairwoman, apparently email is daunting for her. It's a new technology she apparently has never seen.
To
Kind
send
of
with
like
attachments.
cavemen look at wheels and fire. Not only did she send the email late, but the email was flagged by Cumberland County's email system as spam because, does anybody know what an RTF file is?
I sure do.
What's an RTF?
What's an RTF file, ma'am?
Oh, I didn't know I did.
Are you going to talk smack? You better back it up. You better have this is the receipt show. So
I mean, can't you just attach a
I'll
PDF or a
okay,
Word
all right,
document?
take it easy. So RTF is an antiquated version of a Word doc. It's
Yes, I
rich text file. Oh, well, you didn't. So
I
here we
did.
are. All right,
Okay,
all right,
okay.
all right.
You
So
just put me on the spot. I don't like being put on the spot.
so rich text file was sent as an attachment. It was sent late, but then it got flagged.
Right.
And then our chairwoman is quoted in the City View as basically blaming everybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody takes
That's
responsibility.
totally on her.
I mean, why didn't she have the list turned in on a Friday or Saturday?
Why didn't she have the list turned in 2 weeks before when she knew it had to be turned in?
She could have turned it in
Well,
Monday.
okay, so I'll give
Sunday.
her. I'm going to give her just a smidge of grace and
Okay.
say that maybe she was still recruiting. Maybe she wanted to leave it open until a few days. And that makes sense to me.
A few days, fine, but not literally 24 hours before it's due.
I agree.
Like, you should have had all your stuff
You
together.
do-
So-
yeah, you don't
Especially
need
when
to
you
wait until 11:58 when it's due by noon.
Okay.
Something that important, anybody who's in a position like this. When I was chair, I had my list sent in 5 hours ahead of time in case there was something that went wrong.
Yes.
Right.
Because if something went wrong,
Well, I'm in grad school right now, and the cutoff for assignments to be submitted is 11:59 on Wednesday evenings. But I always make sure that I have it ready to go and submitted by Monday or Tuesday, or even Wednesday by noon.
11:58
Yeah.
p.m.
Because you never know if the
Yeah.
system's going to go down, if your
Right.
computer's going to crash. I mean, there's all kinds
you
of stuff that can
cannot
happen.
leave something that important to
Well,
the
and
last
let's,
minute.
so having spoken to the Board of Elections off record about this as well, you know, they also have made it very clear to me that they wouldn't have vilified her if she just walked in or she had resubmitted it correctly. They probably would have let it by.
Yeah.
But because it became an issue and she accused the Cumberland County Board of Elections of malfeasance, basically, well, they drew a line of the sand and said, well, F you,
Yeah,
we're not.
and they-
Didn't she claim she called them too?
She did.
Well, they also, the Board of Elections took a vote, and they voted not to accept it. And then what was to make matters.
Yeah, but see, it wouldn't have gone to that level if she hadn't shown her rear
I know.
end and lied on these people.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have gone to a vote because the people that work there would have just
Yeah.
put it through.
But then the other
And
thing.
that's what everybody kept asking, is
Yeah.
why didn't they just overlook this one
Because
time?
she- Yeah.
Because she
Well,
showed
then
her
the
tail.
other thing
Yep.
that was bad, we have an article come out in City View talking about the whole thing, how the board voted it down. We can't have any poll observers. Then she still sends poll observers out there, and she goes on social media as a brag about how they got in. So I'm like, are you trying to get precinct officials fired?
One of
Pretty
them,
much,
one of
yeah.
them was my technically assistant
Yeah.
precinct chair. Like, and then she got upset when I called him the night before to say, "Hey, by the way, you're probably not going to be able to go in the morning of because the poll observer list
Yeah.
wasn't submitted."
So-
and then I got a nasty gram from her. Don't you dare tell my precinct chair what he can and can't do. I didn't tell him anything. I basically was trying to save him from being embarrassed.
She's like a mean mother hen.
Well,
I
the thing is, once the Board of Elections puts out, says you can't have any poll observers because you were late, don't go on social media bragging about how you sent them in there
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, and they got in. He got in.
So, look,
So she was just
for the
sticking her
peop-
finger up to the Board of Elections.
for the people that are still with us, so to have precinct poll observers, the chairwoman GOP has to send a list of those names to the Board of Elections,
Yes.
and they have to really just, it's not really approved, but it's like, okay, we accept your names,
Yeah.
because then the Board of Elections has to take that list of names and distribute it to their precincts,
They
because
also- they
the
also
precinct
have-
people pick their stuff up that Monday afternoon.
Yeah, they also have time, they review them.
Okay.
If they see some new names, because when I initially submitted poll observer list, Mitzi down at the Board of Elections will go through them, and she's checking voter registration to make sure they're
registered
registered
voters.
Republicans.
Okay,
They have
yeah.
to be registered Republicans.
Okay. Well,
Submitted.
so that aside, though, essentially, so the process is that the chairperson sends in a list, the list gets vetted by Board of Elections, and then those names are then given to the precinct chiefs, the
Right.
chief judges
So
of
your
each precinct.
your
So
precinct
the
judges.
people that are officially working for Cumberland County GOP know who to allow into the voting enclosure, because that's a
Right.
legal issue at that point.
Yeah.
You can't just be in the voting area, like you can't even go through the voting area to use the bathroom if you're
Right.
not voting.
Right.
So we basically have a chairwoman that not only didn't submit the list, but then was proud to share that we illegally, as Republicans,
Yes.
we illegally had people in voting enclosures when they did not have a right to
Yeah.
be there.
When she put that on social media, I'm like, what are you doing?
This bothers me because the people on that list want to volunteer.
Yeah.
They want to be a
Yes.
help to our party, and they have been railroaded by somebody that doesn't know what they're doing.
And they're lied to too. Like they sit there and want to get upset at us because we're calling it out. We're calling
Yeah.
out because we've been in this for. I've been in this for 4 years. You've been in it for 2. Bree's been in it a lot longer than us.
Long time.
You know, we've seen this and we're calling it out because we know that it's not right. But
Right.
then they want to. Well, you're just attacking. You're
Yeah.
this. You're that. No, the rules
When you-
set for a reason.
Yeah, when you miss deadlines and you don't follow the rules, this is what happens, that the volunteers end up being disenfranchised. They're confused. What's going on? I want to volunteer. And then you have volunteers and people walking away from the party. They don't want to help because of all this stuff is getting messed up. So, I mean, as chair, you got to be organized. You have to have management skills. And I'm like, you can't be missing deadlines.
Yeah.
And you have to delegate. You have to rely on your team. There's no way you can do it all by yourself.
Well, I can do it by myself. No, I'm just joking.
No,
I need a team more than anything. So just to sum up, we have just discussed poll observers not being existent at the Cumberland County precincts. There were 77 on election day,
77.
and our chairperson and our board of directors failed all the candidates and you, every Republican voter in this county, because we had no Republican poll observer. And we had nobody to ensure the integrity of our elections because the chairwoman failed you. And
Yes.
I don't care how you put that. If she wants to have this as an attack, she can have it as an attack. But she dropped the ball, and you, Republican voter, your vote was put at risk because of her malfeasance.
Yes.
So with that, I'm Peter Pappas. I'm here to talk about the Republican convention coming on March 8th from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. You bring $10 at the door. As a registered Republican, you're welcome. If you're not registered to vote, come in. You can register to vote. You just can't vote that day.
And a photo ID.
And a photo ID, because that's the kind of people we are. So with that, we'll see you soon.